Why is it that we hate ourselves? I believe this is the question Neon Genesis Evangelion attempts to answer. Watching the heart-wrenching tales of Shinji and Asuka, I was left pondering things I hadn't known about myself. For a couple of years now, I have been engulfed in an endless loop of self-hatred, one where I loathed and questioned my right to exist. Self-hate is an emotion many of us may know all too well. But do we understand what it means to truly hate ourselves? Could it be that this hate is our mind's last-ditch effort at saving us? A desperate attempt at preserving what we have left? Does self-hate actually exist? Self-hate is a very complicated emotion to express. We can simply scream out, "I hate myself," but deep down we know this isn't the full reality of this twisted feeling. As kids, we learn to express our basic emotions. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. But how do we express that voice? One that slowly chips away at our own existence. Maybe the self-hatred is a response our mind created, one that makes sense of the pain we've went through, an attempt to fuse the emotions that overwhelm us into a single word. Or maybe the true reason we cannot describe it is because it never existed. To understand this question, I had to understand the difference between hate and resentment. The lines that separate them are blurry, which is why it is easy to view them as one and the same, but they could not be any more different. To resent something is to choose to hate that thing, that person. It's a reaction to the pain they inflicted on you. Resentment is a feeling that originated in love, while hate is an absolute hostility that may not even have a reason. If there is one thing I am sure of, is that we are not born into this world hating ourselves. Nobody is. It is always a moment, a trauma inflicted upon us that pushed us to choose hate. There is always a reason, and there are so many to resent ourselves. Yet there are none to hate ourselves. But why? Don't we hate ourselves because we cannot love? The paradox introduced by Arthur Schopenhauer was an attempt at describing the inevitable fate of human intimacy. It's a cruel metaphor that would show how powerless we are to our own nature. Hedgehogs desire closeness to one another, but the closer they get, the deeper their spikes will pierce through the ones they love. It depicts a fight between our deepest desires and our cruel nature. The irony that resides within this dilemma haunts us all, because we will bleed in love and shiver in distance, an inescapable path of pain and sorrow. When we don't experience love early on, we learn to fear it. An emotion that has the ability to break a heart should be something we as humans fear. Its destructive power in its presence, or lack of it, is the exact opposite of the naive law we have set for this world, one created in a black and white world. If love is overflowing with pain, why would I ever go to pain with my own 2 feet? It's because of this dilemma that many of us choose to look inwards, a desperate attempt at control. If being a hedgehog destined me to live in pain, then I will hate the spikes that make me one. And by rejecting ourselves, we reject love itself. Taking a glance into Asuka's eyes, you can instantly see the desperation to be seen, a need that arose as her birth was neglected by her own parents. She would nag, shout, and scream, but it wouldn't be of any use, as she would remain invisible in the eyes of those who mattered to her the most. Maybe if she was worth anything, then she wouldn't be so easily replaced by a lifeless doll, would she? Everything that made Asuka herself had to change. She had to shine brighter, so that nobody can ever overlook her existence. When we resent ourselves, we believe that love is something the likes of us are not worthy of having. But can we truly believe we are unworthy of love? Deep down, Asuka craves love, and it's obvious. It's a feeling many of us know all too well. We can clearly see that she is yearning for it, for anyone to love her, anyone to acknowledge her. Maybe this idea is a lie we create, one that allows us to reject love when it comes knocking at our doors, a wall that prevents us from getting hurt again. We are born oblivious to the truth, a truth that lied behind the warmth of love. We are all slaves to love, succumbing to it knowing damn well it could shatter our being in an instant. It's the inevitable nature of being a human. It is why the idea that you are unworthy of love will always fail, because the fall is inevitable. The only thing it can do is prevent us from ever loving fully. Asuka hates herself to justify her invisibility, and she does that by convincing herself that she can only matter when she's the best, because they can't ignore you when you're at the top, when you're all grown up, right? Maybe if she was good enough, her mother wouldn't have died, and this inescapable truth is a knife twisted and left in her back, one that only she can pull out. The harshest truth about self-resentment is that no matter the intensity of love you will receive, only you can break yourself out of this vicious loop. Asuka has to realize that her past was never about her, because the lie of self-resentment is one only we can debunk. Asuka chose to project her pain outwards. But what happens when you do the opposite? The parallel to Asuka is Shinji. They are both two sides of the same coin. However, the only difference is Shinji chooses to run. He shuts out a world ridden with pain and disregards his own existence as that of a mere coward. He chooses to hate himself so that nobody does that for him. A perfect representation of the hedgehog's dilemma. Shinji chooses to reject the concept of love, but if he can only love others, he cannot love at all. We cannot regard self-love and the love we have for others as two separate entities. To fear self-love is to fear love itself, because true love is when we appreciate somebody solely for their humanity. But if humanity is enough for us to love others, why would we be the exception to that rule? Sometimes we are unable to accept the pain of loving. The only means to make that wish come true is to resent ourselves. That's why Shinji chooses to discard his own free will. He wants people to choose for him, open his heart for him, live for him, because he will never be able to bear the weight of being the bringer of his own pain. Shinji is incapable of love, and that is why he is blind to a carbon copy of his own pain. It is for that exact reason that the end of Evangelion's opening scene exists, a moment where Asuka lies helpless on a hospital bed, paralyzed by her own pain. Shinji can do nothing but plead for her help, because he desires loneliness, yet he is incapable of being alone, covered in the remnants of his despicable act. Yet again, he can do nothing but resent the person he has become. After all they have went through, Shinji and Asuka continue to yearn for connection. So why do they allow their self-resentment to continue existing? To understand Shinji and Asuka, we should ask ourselves a simple question. Do we hate something simply because we cannot love it? We are always told that love and hate are like yin and yang, two opposites that will always coexist. But the truth is, this may not be all true. In Eric Fromm's The Art of Loving, he describes the opposite of love as indifference, when we do not even care to acknowledge an existence. If your lack of self-love had brought indifference, why would we ever care about our past, our trauma, our filled potential? If you are truly indifferent to ourselves, why would we have the will to hate? We would become husks, empty souls roaming this planet, in a shell that is destined to rot and wither away in the passage of time. If our self-resentment wasn't born to oppose love, then why was it ever here to begin with? Could it be that we resent ourselves as a reminder of who we could become? Maybe this quote-unquote self-hate is a metamorphosis of what was once love, the last resort to prevent our own self-destruction. Shinji and Asuka wear their self-hate as a blindfold, means of protection from a world that has made them ache for so long. They desire to be alone not because they'll find comfort in solitude, but its cold will always be a lighter cross to carry. But is that really true? Well, Shinji is able to find that out for himself through the Human Instrumentality project, an act that strips us of our individuality. It shatters the walls that separate our hearts. It creates a world that is free of the pain of loving, because there is nobody to love. We have become one, and in doing that, the choice of loneliness is no longer a choice. Isn't this what we wished for? A fate we thought was more merciful than the world we had. Shinji floats in the endless abyss as he begins to question if love was truly not worth the pain. Earlier, I said that love was inevitably accompanied by pain. But in making this video, I came to realize that love is also the medicine we are all so desperately in search for. Even this pain we grew to hate so much may be the only thing that can force us to change into something better. Our self-hate is ironically our mind's last attempt at tricking us into self-love. It's this cocoon our mind preserves us in until we can find a way to break ourselves out. In resenting the person we once were, we can learn to be better. Just like Shinji, we will have to accept our spikes. The world may well be a cruel place, but it will always be a better place when we learn the warmth of love. Sometimes all we need to do is open up our hearts for one last time, because only then will we see the beauty in our humanity. You exist, and that's why you're worth loving.